Alright, episode 2 of chatting shit about the Vortex Cup. Joined tonight by James, Lewis, and Jay. How are we all?
Good,
Very
mate,
good,
thank
mate.
you.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, good, thanks. Good, thanks. Started to get my teeth into this meta. Looks really, really difficult to team build in. I think. I don't know what you guys think. It looks like it could be a tough
Yes.
one. I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah.
So we do these things in Silph, in PvP Poke rank order. So whoever's the highest rated pick goes first. And tonight, for once, that's Jay, the Spice King himself, has got the most meta
Me?
pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've gone with Shadow Celio. Pokedex number 364 for you, Dan, of course. It's ranked 23rd, I think, on PvP. Or you can go non-shadow and it's 24th. But yeah, most of the time when Celio is like in a meta, it's viable. It's got powder snow, fast move, obviously, so it's quick generating, and it's got body slam spam. That's always fun to use. So the problem is what the other move is that you want on it. Obviously, the other moves aren't really that impressive in Aurora Beam and Water Pulse. But most of the stuff I've looked at, I've put it with Water Pulse. Just seem to pick up a few extra matchups, and it doesn't leave you like open to like getting walled by like fire, for example.
Yeah, Frostlass as well is a huge one.
Yeah, and the that girl, yeah. But the issue is, I think the shadow variant, you're not doing as well against Lapras. There's a couple of things you've got to weigh up for what you want out of it. But I prefer the look of the shadow from what I've seen. Like twos, you're picking up 76% wins. Ones is 75. It's not a mon to use when you've got no shields. It's because it's just spammy, and like you want to have shield to protect it. You want to use it probably as either a lead or as a switch, just to try and flip matchups. Like with a one powder snow. I've got my note here. Yeah, with a one powder snow advantage in the two shields, and in the one shield you're gaining like between 5 and 7% more wins. You pick up pretty much all the dragons, which is what you want your ice types to do. Other than I think in the zeros, it's Zweilous can take it. But that's because I'm not running Aurora Beam. I'd be running Water Pulse. But like I said, for me, it's not going to be a closer. And I think in the twos, Shadow Dragonair pushes it very close as well. But other than that, it beats everything that you expect it to beat. And then the best thing for me is if it picks up a Venusaur in the ones and twos, which is, I think, it's pretty nice. And that's with that's straight body slam spam. Yeah, so that's why I think the Water Pulse is like, even the grasses themselves, like if they haven't got Razor Leaf and you've got two shields against the grass, unless it's like Ferrothorn or Cradily, I think you pretty much can beat all the grasses with two shields. There's going to be the odd one, like maybe Meganium's a bit bulky, and I think it was Blossom because of its Leaf Blade spam. But like obviously like that Venusaur, that's always popular. Jumpluff could be a popular one. But yeah, just picking up like Tropius, like all stuff like that. It picks up some good ones. Toxicroak though, with a one powder snow advantage in the ones you can pick up, which I was quite surprised with. Yeah, because I was looking and it was really close. It was like 530 or something for the rating, and I was just like, is it like a false rating or like kind of thing? Is it you just got close to a body slam? But no, it's so one powder snow and that matchup's yours.
How does it do with Primeape with an energy lead?
I think it's similar. Primeape's very close. I think it was an even matchup. I'm sure it was like 500 when I put it in.
Okay.
So it's like but then with that, it's you're looking at fast move denial. If you can get your fast move denials in, depending on how random the game wants to be sometimes. So if they sneak a counter in, then you're not gonna flip that matchup. If you can get a part of no advantage or slip some in, then you can probably flip that. But obviously, if they get the booster, then you're screwed.
If they go Night Slash and you shield and
The thing with Primeape though, as much as it's weak to Primeape, like Primeape, because there's so many things here, massive problems. Like as much as it's weak to Primeape, like it's not an amazing measuring stick to pair things up against, because it Primeape feels like it's going to be quite meta defining. So there's not going to be many things that beat it.
I only asked because it's going to be on not every team, but it's going to be on a lot of teams. So it's likely to be the counter swap if you safe swap this.
But with the Par's nose advantage, you're going to run it close, but you're not going to be able to invest more than one shield in it.
Yeah,
because they'll probably just counter you down in it, because its attack so high with Primeape as well.
Yeah. But if you can leave the Primeape farmable, you can maybe swing something around.
Yeah. But a couple of other things that you'd think I'd think maybe would hard counter it. So a Galvantula. So in the ones, you get a 2-part snow advantage. You pick up that. You pick up Electivire. You pick up Alolan Raichu. So, and it's one of them. It's because it's such a fast charger. As a switcher as well, if you do switch that in, and someone's a little bit slow on the switch, being able to turn around a matchup against what should be a hard counter is always nice to have.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess then in that case, given that it's got that potential to turn around those matches as the hard counters, maybe in terms of teammates for it, you want to be going things like Hypno, Pelipper, things that really, really scare Primeape, just to try and
keep it away. I mean, I feel as well, Primeape is it's more of a lead. You look at Primeape a lot, I look at it and think, most people are gonna lead that. It's not. You don't want it to get stuck in a losing matchup. So for me, anyway, it's a leader or a closer Primeape. You won't want to switch it in to get a counter switch, because he's not a bulky boy, is he? So, but no,
he is not.
and everybody's going to bring a hard counter for Primeape, right? Because you have to.
Yeah. But Celio picks up. Well, you mentioned Pelipper, so picks up Pelipper, Whiscash, Mandibuzz. I think Dugong as well. So
makes sense. I think one thing that's worth saying about
some
Celio.
Good names.
Oh, absolutely. I think one thing that's worth mentioning about Celio, particularly for people who are sort of newer to Silph, they might look at it and think, it's Celio, it's a bit dull. And I'm sure I've said this before, but as Jay said, whenever it looks good, it always will put in work. And it's a bit like Licky Tongue in that sense, where it looks sort of unassuming and it's going to cost you a lot of Stardust, but it's absolutely worth the investment, and it will come up again and again in future mets. So my advice would be not to let if you fancy it, don't let the dust cost put you off.
Now I've got a decent rank Shadow, so waiting for Sunday so I can TM for frustration, I think.
Nice.
I mean, you could just run frustration and body slam, because you're not throwing the other move anyway.
Yeah, I suppose. But I might need a clutch water pulse.
Yeah, you never know.
A steel type.
Yeah, I mean, Frostlass in it. Frostlass is it.
Actually.
Personally, I wouldn't.
What are the differences between a shadow and a non-shadow? Like, is
Hardly
it worth
anything.
is it worth getting the shadow or sticking with the vanilla one?
It's probably worth sticking with a vanilla one. But it depends what you want. You're picking up different things. So like with your vanilla, you're gonna keep your Lapras matchup. With your shadow, you're gonna lose it. With your vanilla, you're gonna lose Venusaur matchup. But with your shadow, you're gonna win it. So it's your team comp really. It's like if they're picking up slightly different, like it's like niche wins for you. Like it could be a little coverage for you if you've got something in your team that you think, oh, actually, that's going to suit it better. That I win that matchup, or it doesn't really matter if I'm losing that matchup. Suppose you'd have to do more of a deep dive for your team comp for it.
Yeah, one to decide on at the end after you've seen the rest of your six, as you said.
Yeah.
One thing to bear in mind with the Lapras matchup is if Celio being Shadow flips it, then Lapras being Shadow will also flip it. So I think since a lot of Laprases nowadays are Shadow, just because it's cooler, that's probably worth watching out for as well. And then what happens if they're both Shadow is probably different again. So
yeah,
good point.
it's worth checking out, I guess.
Presumably with Skull Bash bait games as well, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Although I seem to remember preferring Lapras to Celio in the mirror because I feel like if you get the Skull Bash before the second Body Slam or something like that, or before the third, or would it be the second or third one?
Must be the third. If you had an energy lead, it'd be the second, but you'd have to have a lead.
I think that's what it is. If you can get the Skull Bash before the second Body Slam, I believe you can go straight Skull Bash. And if you're going to play out the twos as the Lapras, it's best to go straight Skull Bash as well, because then by the end the defense boosts against the Body Slams help. So it's it's probably one of the most complex matchups in the game, to be fair, Lapras Celio. Any further thoughts on Celio, anyone? No? Well, in that case, let's move on to Lewis's pick, which is something I was a little bit gutted when Lewis told me he was going to pick, because I quite like the look of talking about this, but yeah.
So my pick is Pokédex number 130, and it is Gyarados. Now, when I was thinking about this, I was looking for something that could beat Fighters and Dragons with no fairies being around. And the list of things that do both is quite limited. There's quite a lot that does one and not the other. And instead stumbled upon Gyarados. And obviously, because it's a Dragon Breath user without being a dragon, it beats all the dragons. It beats pretty much all the fighters bar Primeape in the wands, and that requires a Night/Bait and then land into close combat. It's average against everything else, but if you give it even a slight energy lead, it flipped like Jay's pick. It flips so much that you wouldn't think otherwise. Like, for example, most of the grasses, if you get a couple of Dragon Breaths in, you're flipping those in the same way that Celio does. You're flipping things like Frostlass, Mandibuzz, Lapras with just a couple of extra Dragon Breaths in. And obviously, because it's a one-turn fast move, you're going to get at least a couple in before they get to react to it.
Yeah.
Are you thinking...
So it's probably better as a switch, depending on whether they're running an electric type or not. Obviously, if they're running electric type, you're getting completely walled. Yeah. But if they're not, it makes it a really good safe swap.
Yeah, very briefly walled. Presumably, this is Aquatail Crunch, is it, or is it a play for Outrage? Do you think?
I would stick Aquatail Crunch. I think in Great League, you're not going to get too many Dragon Pulses.
Fair.
I don't think it's worth it.
Fair. What I liked about it when I looked at it was that it's similar to what Phil was saying about Kingdra. Actually, like it's not. As a Dragon Breath user, it's not a dragon obviously, but as a Dragon Breath user that isn't weak to ice, it's quite nice. But as you said, with it not being a dragon, it beats the dragons. And there isn't a great deal that beats Kingdra in twos at all. And Gyarados is one of those few. which I think could be pretty handy.
It's still not great against the ices, though. Like, it will lose to Frostlass in 1s and 0s, but win 2s.
Yeah.
And it will absolutely lose regardless to Dugong, no matter what you do.
Yeah, it hurts. The lack of stab on Dragon Breath against anything that it isn't super effective against is a...
How bad is it as a Shadow variant? I know it's not exactly bulky in the Great League, but
I've not looked into it as a Shadow simply because it's so frail as it is. I don't think it's going to actually flip enough matchups to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's I can't imagine many people will have a Shadow certainly with Aquatail, because I know when it was Magikarp Community Day, wasn't Magikarp a fairly rare Shadow form before that?
I think it was common before Shadows were useful, and then it never really became common after. So my only Shadows got Hydro.
Fair.
Mine's got Aquatail.
Same.
There are Elite TMs available.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's not worth an Elite TM, like.
It depends how many Elite TMs you've got. What I would say though is it worth an Elite TM in a meta where you might want to use Mew? That's the question. But yeah, I don't know.
Depends on the normal ones you got and how patient you are.
Well, that's true. That's true. I must say my luck with Mew has been pretty good. My luck with I remember I was using Gyarados in Ultra League after I got Aquatail. It took me about 14 TMs to get the right moveset onto Gyarados. Like, just flip me through moves. So Gyarados can be a pest, to be fair, certainly in my experience. But yeah, you mentioned the electric types. Obviously a hindrance. I think it's one of them in it where it could be an amazing month depending on which way the meta develops. I certainly wouldn't feel confident going into a long 6 or 7 round slow one with it early month and then being stuck with it all month and everyone having Galvantula. But certainly towards the back end of the month, once the meta's settled down a bit, if electric types aren't common, it could be an absolute monster.
There's not that many viable electric types.
No.
There's only a couple, and you're only ever going to see one.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And we're talking about that in a bit.
Yeah.
I
think most teams will have no electrics, if I'm really honest, but we'll see where we get to today.
He's hoping.
I don't know. I just feel like people love a Galvantula,
Yeah, they do, don't they? It's because it's like top recommended on PV Poke to just finish your team off to make it have a safe switch and just okay.
Yeah, but I don't think Galvantula's gonna be particularly good here because everyone's gonna be running a fire to deal with Ninetales and and it's not great versus dragons. So I don't know. This meta is wonky in so many places. It hurts my brain if I think about it too much. But I think it'll become quite clear quite quickly whether electric's going to be a big bomb. Yeah. Any further thoughts on Gyarados? No.
I just think it's really interesting that it picks up the grasses if it's sort of if they counter switch it, because if electric does become a big thing in the meta, that might be a good reason for people to bring grass types, because they tend to be good electric counters without. And obviously, that still kind of goes in Gyarados' favour.
Yeah.
Against those teams, not against the teams with the electrics, but against the other half, it kind of makes sense.
The anti-electric teams.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of Silph, innit? You can bring these things where they're going to be amazing against some teams and crap versus others, but you just don't have to use them versus the teams they're crap against. So it's certainly one of the things I like. I like using Shadows Outburst like that. I've had bad experience.
Just bench it for the half of your games where it's useless, and enjoy the other half.
I'm starting to feel like it's useless in much more than half of my games now. I think I had one or two very good experiences with it, and that's just swayed my mind. But
yeah.
Okay, my pick. I was thinking about trying to find a decent counter for both Frostlass and Primeape. I was thinking like Quillfish does the job, but it's not good elsewhere. Same with Wormadam Trash. So then what I did was like Primeape is good in the ones with a bait, and so I thought, what if I can just find something that's faster to 2 moves than Primeape is to a Night Slash and a close combat. So I pulled up the activation table on the first move activation table on Game Press, and there it was. The pick, it was staring me at the face. But go back to October 2019, Sinister Cup. Everyone was wondering how we're going to get past, how we're going to get through this RPS meta, with Steelix, and some bright spark out there came up with Pokédex number 356, Dusclops.
Yes.
Back then it was running Feint Attack. I think here you want Hex because of Primeape resisting Feint Attack. Similar to Celio, there's the option for the Shadow, although that is also similar to Celio, very expensive. But I'm quite confident you want the non-Shadow variant here. It's quite an interesting matchup versus Frostlass. The Zeros is IV dependent, but not in the way you might think. Like, it's IV dependent. If the Frostlass is bad enough IVs, it will win the Zeros, because the Shadow Ball will do that little bit extra damage.
Oh wow!
Which is, it's that close. Frostlass has the bait to win the ones, but it can't really bait because, well, I mean it can obviously, but if it goes for Avalanche and it goes unshielded, it can lose the Zeros. So it feels to me like that's a tick in the Dusclops column. You win the 2s, even if the Frostlass double baits, I believe, and it needs Frostlass needs like 3 Powder Snows to lead to win the 2s. Frostlass can't switch in on Dusclops at all. This is all just Hex Shadow Punch, by the way. And Shadow Punch is obviously a pretty terrible move, but the super effective stab, it adds up. Frostlass can't switch in at all into Dusclops. The Shadow's more reliable in the ones, but at the expense of the Zeros. There's no way the Shadow is winning the Zeros because the Shadow Ball definitely kills.
Yeah.
So personally, I think for that matchup alone, the non-Shadow is more important, but there's more as well. Frostlass. Whereas versus the non-Shadows, it could just bait and win. Versus the Shadow, it's got to get 2 Powder Snows and bait, or 3 Powder Snows and straight Shadow Ball. So there's quite a swing there in the ones. To be fair, like if you're looking at ones, the Shadow's going to come out on top there. Primeape, all even shields. The non-Shadow is winning. A Night Slash buff might swing the 2s if you get it first time around, but that's going to be very unlucky. Primeape needs 3 counters to swing the 1s, which is the most swingable. So that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it feels pretty safe there. Whereas the Shadow, the Shadow also beats it on all evens, but 1 counter will swing the Zeros and the 1s. So that's another reason why I steer clear of the very expensive Shadow. Obviously, there's Dark types running around, which is a slight concern. But the Zweilous matchup is really interesting. Because Zweilous has Body Slam and Dark Pulse, and you don't really want to be. It's a risky bait. It's a risky bait going for Body Slam versus a Dusclops. It does 11%, I think.
As much as that?
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, but it's it's not going to help Zweilous much. So assuming no baits on either side, and you're giving for this for the darks here, I think you want to give it Ice Punch rather than Fire Punch, or in fact Return, which is now an option, which it didn't have before. I think you're going to be going Ice Punch. In the no bait scenario, the non-shadow beats Zweilous in the 1 and 2 shield scenario, which I think is pretty mind-boggling. Whereas the shadow needs 1 hex to win 1s and 0, and 2 hexes to win 0s. So there's different matchups there in terms of which ones they take, the shadow or the non-shadow. Zweilous needs 5 Dragon Breaths to flip the 1s, no baits, which is it's doable, but what it means is that you can switch Dusclops into Zweilous, which I think is pretty interesting. You might lose a shield advantage, and you're going to lose a bit of health because of the Dragon Breaths. But if switch advantage is more important for you, it can you can switch Dusclops into Zweilous. Mandibuzz, the other one, is a lost cause, really. Mandibuzz only has to throw one foul play at you in the 0s to kill you with. I mean, it doesn't kill you, but it can then snarl up to 100 energy and throw.
Yeah, you might wish it had killed you.
Yeah.
I think you need something like 4 Ice Punches to kill it, so you're just not going to kill it. But this is where the saving grace for the shadow comes in. The shadow Ice Punch will win a 1-0 shield lead, and it means in the 0s that Mandibuzz can't do the straight farming. So if you find yourself in a situation where you think, right, I'm just going to lead Dusclops, maybe the shadow's better, because you're not giving your opponent chances to get those energy advantages. But personally, I think the non-shadow's the way to go. I think it could be, certainly against non-Mandibuzz teams, I think it could be a good safe swap. What do you guys think?
I think it's really interesting that all the darks that are good here are weak to ice. I hadn't really considered that. I wouldn't have thought of Dusclops as an Ice Punch user. So, but yeah, why not? It sounds really plausible.
I don't like talking about Dusclops because I accidentally transferred the rank 1 before London's finest Sinister.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was okay in the end. But no, yeah, I really like Dusclops. And obviously, you've got flexibility for movesets with the Ice Punch, Fire Punch, obviously Return. Like I said, I don't think the Fire Punch is going to do you much good, but the Shadow Punch it's a very underwhelming charge move for me. So I would be more tempted to run like a double punch or a Return instead of the Shadow Punch, but then obviously I suppose that's going to be detrimental for your fighters.
I mean,
I feel like if you've got Return on it for your fighters,
you can probably get away with just Ice Punch versus Primate, because they do.
Could you get away with just Fire against Frostlass?
Frostlass.
So I looked at that. It's in the Frostlass can't switch into it, but it's much more sketchy. You could do if you were feeling brave. I think the 1s is effective more than anything. You could do
that. Yeah, I think Dusclops is a great pick. It's dead flexible, and obviously you're going to keep people guessing with your moveset. So, and it's just a tank as well. Isn't it?
Yeah, The thing, see, I never used Dusclops in Sinister. I was more Team Drifblim. But my concern with the reason I didn't run Dusclops back in Sinister, and something I'm going to have to think hard about here, and it's something I'm less concerned about now, is that you get long, drawn out, quite boring games. But actually, if that means that the games are less RPSy, which I mean, it may do sometimes, it may not. Maybe that's a good thing. Like I really enjoy Mandibuzz now, and that's long, slow, and dull, boring games, and I quite enjoy them.
I think games where matchups last beyond the switch timer. Like the worst time for a matchup to last is about 55 seconds. So the ending is inevitable. Nobody can swap out, but it takes forever. Yeah. Longer than that is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
opportunities to bank energy and switch, or like sack swap onto take charge rooms with something else. Yeah, I mean, thing is, I've got a decent rank one. I think it's rank 55 or something, and it's going to cost me $250,000 Stardust to power up and do the second move, and which is fine. I'm not against spending the Stardust, but it's a lot to just test something in it. But what else am I going to use it for? Like nothing.
You've spent more on worse.
Have I?
You must have.
I'll defend Dusclops. Dusclops is a great little utility man. Like I think I used it in Marsh as well, in the Northwest All Stars. I think I had double elemental on it then, and it was like against everyone seems to have Ferrothorn, and Shifu is quite popular. It's like if I was getting energy leads with Dusclops and having Fire Punch and Ice Punch on it, like I had a laugh with it. It was a fun Pokemon to use.
It doesn't absolutely destroy anything, but you don't want your safe swap to do that because it's probably giving up matchups somewhere else. You want it to do nice, solid, reliable jobs against a whole bunch of things with a little energy lead, which I guess is what that moveset has always done.
I'll tell you why you can't run double punch here. Because people are running Frostlass counters, and they are water and fire types, which both resist ice and fire.
So you need the ghost damage or return.
Yeah, you need some sort of neutral damage there. Could be one of those tricky ones where you run a purified one without return, and then charge up to 70 energy.
I think the last time I looked at Dusclops, Hex hadn't been buffed yet, so the idea of getting to a 70 energy move was less plausible.
Yeah.
I can't remember how big the Hex buff was, but it's quite good now.
It's now 12
3 turns, yeah.
So which means you get to the Shadow Punches in 3 rather than in 2. And it says you get to a return a bit quicker as well. You get to a return.
Yeah. 6 for the first return.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's as I say, that's the 3 hexes to a Shadow Punch was what drew it to me, because that's going to be quicker than Primeape to a Night Slash in a close combat. Albeit the close combat isn't relevant in this particular scenario, but that's what.
No, but it's 9 turns instead of 10, so it's quicker to every move than the Primeape.
Yeah, because other things that were sort of 9, 10, 8, 9, 10 turns. Weirdly, there's only Regirock that's fastest move is 11 turns. That's something I found out today. Other things that are 8, 9, and 10 turns are just rubbish. Like other than Politoed, it's all like, oh, you can go Fury Cutter and X-Scissor, or Mudshot and Muddy Water. Like it's just useless. Like Flygon's probably like the other one that stands out as being viable, but obviously not for the purposes of beating Frostlass.
Yeah. So something gets Thundershock and Body Slam, but again, that doesn't help you with Frostlass.
Isn't that one of Callum's sheep Pokemon?
It might be Mareep, actually, which definitely doesn't help you.
No.
Yeah, thinking about it, it might be Mareep.
Yeah.
XL Marif, I can see him chatting.
Yeah, why not?
Aye. No. Still, what? I'm glad you've used it recently, Jay, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit concerned that there's been a bit of power creep since Sinister. We've got weather ball users. A lot more mons being released, and if it's still being put in some work, and if it's still behaving as it was, that fills me with a bit of confidence, to be honest.
No, it's still good in my eyes. I think I went 4-1 using it, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, fair. Any final thoughts, or do we want to move on to James's pick? No? Go on then, James.
So, my pick's an electric type. It's Mareep. No. No, it's not the obvious fighting resisting electric type, though. It's not Galvantula, it's Alolan Raichu. I've been using a lot of Volt Switch and Confusion users in GBL recently, and I really like the ability of those big chunky moves, and the same goes for Incinerate when it's relevant in a meta. To turn a small farming opportunity into a ridiculous advantage. Something's got a tiny bit of HP, but you can sneak 2 Volt Switches in. That's 32 energy going into the next matchup. That's basically that's almost a Thunder Punch. Almost a discharge, or almost a lunge, or whatever one you're using. And so I was looking for one here that wasn't Galvantula, because I'm really bored of that, and I think there's going to be a fire type on every team. And I wanted, I looked at Electrode. Loses quite badly to Primeape, so that's no good. Looked at Kanto Raichu, but it looks too much like a Charmer in this meta, so that's no fun. But Alolan Raichu, I haven't found a reason not to run yet. That might be the best thing I can say for it.
What move set are you thinking?
Well, that's the great thing. I've been simming with just Volt Switch Thunder Punch, so not looking at the good charge moves yet. And you already beat Frostlass in 2s. You beat Celio in 2s even if the Celio has an energy lead. You beat Primeape in all even shields. These are without an energy advantage, by the way. Primeape in all evens might be with a small energy lead, but like 1 Volt Switch, if so. Mandibuzz isn't going to want to come near you, and you've still got the second move slot. So you can pick what you need it to beat. If you need it to have play against, I'm not going to say it's good against ground types with Grass Knot. I'm not going to say it turns those round. But given that for the most important matchups you want it for, Thunder Punch is enough, you've got that option. Obviously, if you want a big nuke that everything is scared of, Wild Charge is great. Or if you want a big nuke that's neutral against most of the meta, Psychic is there for you. So it really comes down to what else your team covers and what you want Raichu to beat, apart from the really common core meta stuff. Obviously for Gyarados it needs Volt Switch.
About 3.
Anything or any move really.
I'm gonna jump in here because we were talking about this the other night, and my initial thought was triple electric, and I thought,
yeah,
none of its second charge moves solved this wireless problem. But then I looked at Wild Charge, 45% to his wireless.
Yeah.
And as you say, if you've got that 2 Volt Switch lead, you'll beat wireless, I'm sure. Like,
I think beat is a stretch.
Pressure a shield.
But
Yeah, fine.
Zweilous is the scariest thing for it in this meta. Okay, Excadrill's probably the scariest thing for it in this meta, Steelix or something, but
Diggersby?
well, that might be the reason to run Grass Knot. Because you're going to outpace the Earthquakes, and the Fire Punches are pretty insipid. I mean, obviously, if you get baited, you're in a world of pain. Didn't actually look at Diggersby though. Good point.
I was going to say, fire punch could be enough with the mud shots, I don't know.
I don't think Raichu's that squishy, and remember, Diggersby's really wimpy when it hits.
Alolan Raichu's squishy.
No, I bet it's bulkier than Toxicroak.
Oh, I'm not betting with you, lads. Come on.
I'm not going to try and check right now. But yeah,
marginally bulkier than Toxicroak. Sorry, no. Oh, it's
So-
IVs.
so-
IVs. Never mind. I was wrong.
so obviously, Zweilous is a massive problem, but you can probably put a dent in it. But don't safe swap it against Zweilous teams. That'd be my tip.
Yeah.
It's another of these things that really. Yeah, it has that one terrible counter, and then it has a little bit of play against almost everything else. Moveset depending. Obviously, it's a shame you can't pick your moveset based on your opponent's team, but there we go.
It feels to me here this meta like Zweilous, because of both the sort of prominent darks being weak to ice. It feels to me like if you're picking Zweilous, you're probably not then picking another dragon or a Mandibuzz.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's some if you really wanted to think about it, there's probably some assumptions that you could make about what else are going to be on Zweilous teams.
I suppose even like if you're picking like a ground type as well. If you're worried about ice, obviously like the ground type, and you're going to worry if you're the Raichu, but then you're on the Zweilous team. Yeah, you know that you're hella weak versus ice, then you might want to steer away from a ground type. So could work in your advantage.
I think a lot of people are going to run at least two ice types, or at the very least a second thing with an ice move like an ice punch on Primeape or on Dusclops. So there's going to be a lot of ice flying around, and yeah, it does seem like all of the good dark types are weak to it. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether I agree. Well, certainly not double ice. My first thought when this meta came out was it looked a bit like that classic. I'll say that classic line. Something Rob the Magician was using in which one? Nightfall was Frostlass and Shadow Lapras together, and I thought that looked potentially quite strong. But as you say, the fires knocking around on every team really put a dent in it now, and you used to be able to rely on Lapras to beat Ninetales in particular, but now it's got Weather Ball. Ninetales beats Lapras pretty reliably these days. Yeah, I'm less sure about that. I think the ice as a coverage, I'm more on board with. I was even looking at a Pokemon I almost always look at when it's available, and yet to this day haven't built is Swalot because of Ice Beam. Don't laugh, it's bulky, man. It's really bulky, and it resist character.
it wants to be bulky because it doesn't have any moves cheaper than 55.
Is it like Ice Beam, Sludge Bomb?
Yeah, with Infestation.
Oh, Sludge Bomb's only 50, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, with Infestation, which isn't ideal, but
it's better than it was, but non-stab.
Yeah, but the point being, as you say, people will specifically be looking for, I want this type of Mon with an ice coverage move. Which is for because the dragons, Mandibuzz, else ground, grass. There's well, anything Switch-wise. There's no limitations here.
Right.
So.
I think where I was going with the double ice thing was that if you're worried about ground and dragon types beating your Raichu, that might be a good excuse to run. So just make sure you're well stacked with ice coverage.
I see.
Just for that synergy.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, I think it's well worth a look. I think. I mean, Galv has the lunge, which makes it good in twos, isn't it? But I don't think Galv's any better than Alolan Raichu, personally. I mean, it has lunge, doesn't it, for Zweilous, which gives it play, but yeah, I don't think it's too bad here. Alolan Raichu, I think it's absolutely got play.
I'm really surprised it's ranked 100. Like, I accept that it's not top 20 meta.
Yeah.
But I'm really surprised it's ranked 146th, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. If we see that improve.
Yeah. Well, it's like Phil with Kingdra, similar. Dust Clops.
Don't talk about him picking my bloody Kingdra. I didn't touch Quag. I left it alone. No. Fucking king. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, Kingdra's boss.
Yeah, no, well within your rights, mate. Yeah, no, there's so much good stuff here outside the top 100. I mean, as you say, it's early rankings and things move about, don't they?
Yeah. Obviously, they'll update it based on usage, and that'll swing it. But
yeah, Probopass 105.
Right, which is sort of pseudo-electric because you tend to run Spark.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There's not a huge deal of stuff that's immediately jumping out. Haunter and Gengar outside the top 100. Jirachi, I think, could be interesting. Sudowoodo, Relicanth, something I've thought about. You know, there's loads of Jellicent. There's stuff there. Like, have a look down the list. There's absolutely stuff there. Yeah. Cool. Well, should we call it there? Unless anyone's got any further thoughts on Alolan Raichu.
I just had one more Alolan Raichu fact that I needed to share with you, which is that its Pokédex number is 26.
I was going to put you off on that.
I wouldn't dare.
Well, that's the Dan meme's not coming out today. Although is it because you didn't mention it at the beginning though? So, right, let's cut it there. Bloody hell. Nice one.
Cheers.
Nice one.
Cheers, guys.
Catch you later.